Get ready for the world's greatest Arsenal podcast. Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. My name is Fergus. I am your host. I'm joined, as usual, by my three friends, Gooner Hilsey, Capo Dan, and Danish Gooner Alex. We're going to look back over the fantastic victory over Palace and our onward push to try and win the Premier League title for the first time in 19 years. And we will look back over the disappointment of going out of Europe and what it meant for various people. It was a long night for a lot of us. But before we do that, there has been some murmurings and noise coming out of North London. I'm not too far from that part of North London here, and I've seen helicopters going in and out, and I took this footage.
I don't want It's a cobweb! It's a cobweb! Oh, it's another cobweb! I don't like! Oh. Apart from the cobwebs is completely empty.
Oh, guys, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't leave it there that long and not play it. It was just I just couldn't do it. Trev, how are you, mate?
I'm really buzzing. Seeing as it's been a week where we've gone out of Europe to a better side than people gave them credit for, in fairness, as they showed. I'm still over the moon, mate, because we came back, didn't we, against Palace, and we're going to talk about it at length, I know. And if you're not smiling after that performance at Palace, you ain't never going to smile, are you? So I'm feeling great, Ferg. I'm feeling absolutely fabulous, mate.
Alex, you okay, mate?
I'm very good. Like, as Trev said, it's always nice going into a break on top of the league and on the back of a performance like that against Palace. So, yeah, I'm buzzing.
And Dan, how are we? I seem to spend almost more time with you than I do with any other members of my family. How are you doing, mate?
I wish you'd stop stalking me, to be honest, but yeah. Look, why am I on the left tonight, mate?
I don't know. Maybe you changed political opinions?
Have you guys had a falling out, or what's going on here?
No.
Here
he goes. Listen, look back on that chat. I said that we're being difficult. They are going to give me a hard time today. I just know it. Listen.
Danny's on the right. Danny's on the... See, I thought it was because I was bloody old and I was getting it wrong, but that's better.
That does look right, yeah.
Okay. Right, okay, here we go. So we're going to look at the Arsenal-Lisbon game first of all. We're not going to spend a huge amount of time on it, but we do have to talk about it because it's a European competition that we are out of. It was a long night. It was a hard night. The weather was particularly dreadful towards the end. And the ongoing works around the Emirates Stadium clearly haven't reached the East Stand yet. You see the rain just pouring down, and the people down below. It was a huge, big area that was cleared out. But that's besides the thing. That was probably how we felt towards the end of that game. Dan, before the game, I didn't have any beers. There was a good atmosphere on the concourse. There was a different crowd because it was Europa League. There was a train strike, so a lot of tickets were sold on to other people who could get in there. And what did you make of the pre-match amble that we normally have on Block 5, Block 6?
Which game's this?
The Lisbon game. Don't be an arse.
What game? Don't know, you're like.
It's terrible.
Right, so Dan has decided to leave the show.
He's the one getting sacked.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, So listen, what happened, and Tim said further up in the chat, if we have a look up there, that there was an awful lot more carnage going on in the Block 5, Block 6 area. What song was going with it, with the beers going up in the air? Dan?
Which game is this, mate?
Oh, you've gone for good.
I'll stop. Who cares about Sporting in the Europa League? No one.
I'm talking about the atmosphere. Come on, I won't ask you any opinions about anything else.
All right then. That was your LA song, the one that you started. You started everyone by throwing the beer up in the air, and it's caught on now.
I didn't have any beer, if you remember
Not on that
correctly.
game, previous games.
Not on that game, no. But it was quite a lively atmosphere, and we saw the lineups. And when you saw the lineup, I'll go to you, Alex, because I'm probably get a bit more common sense and less aggro as well. Five changes in the lineup. We had Jesus starting Saliba. Ramsdale started over Turner after the conversation we had last week. Tomiyasu and Gabriel number 6 started. Pleased with the lineup? Did you think, we could do it with that lineup?
Yeah, for sure. I thought we could do it. I thought it was a strong lineup. It was only Saka and Partey getting rested, so almost our strongest lineup. And yeah, I was quite confident we were gonna seal the victory against them. But we have struggled in knockout games at Emirates. It's the fifth game in a row that we haven't won in a European knockout game now at the Emirates. So not very good. So, but I was pleased with the lineup though, and good to see
Trev,
Gabriel Jesus starting as well.
Trev, looking at that lineup, were you pleased with the lineup? Did you think, after the 2-2 in Porto, which, as we said last week, was a really good game and a good game for the neutral to watch, we should have done better in Porto. Did you think that we could have taken that back and with that lineup, taken a game to Sporting?
Yeah, Ferg, I said last week, mate. I said last week that Sporting were a better side than we gave them credit for, but I also said I thought we'd beat them. So I think I wasn't unhappy with the side. I was surprised Ramsdale played because I think Turner would have saved it. But apart from that, it was a side. He put a side out to win the game, and he brought substitutes on to win a game, and he was determined to try and win it, and it wasn't to be on the night. I don't know what we can really say about it, Ferg, apart from what I just said. Sporting are a better side than we gave them credit for. It didn't come off for us. We lost to a skillful bit of work for their goal, but nevertheless, you need a lot of luck involved with it. And they got that rubber to green, although it was a good skill to shoot from that far. So I don't know how we can expand. It's hard to expand when we lose in Europe, Fergus, because it hurts. It hurts. I'll go to every European away game, and it really, really hurts. All I can think of is that what happened after in the days following, and when we're going to build up to the next fixture, I know, made me smile again. It made me smile for many, many reasons. And as Dan just put in another way, I'm looking forward to moving on and talking about the Palace game, mate. I don't want to
And we will. But to add to context to that, myself and Dan were in the North Bank with some friends. And I even said to Dan about Sporting are a much bigger test. They're a Champions League side that have dropped out of the Champions League into the Europa League, so they were always going to be a bigger test. And Dan, I also said to you, like we look at Xhaka got the opener goal on 19 minutes, but before that we had a couple of injuries. So by the 21st, or in and around that, by the 21st minute, we had lost Saliba and Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu's out till the end of the season. What was your thoughts on the opposition and the first half performance? And just look at Xhaka's goal. We'll try and rush through this game because the Palace game, as we said, is a more important game to talk about.
Yeah, no, I think to be honest, it showed the depth of our squad, and we did make a couple of changes, and I think quite rightly so. The main focus is definitely the league, but when we make a couple of changes like that, it comes down to fine margins, and it just came down to, for me, not getting the second goal. I think if we'd have got the second goal, as we probably should have done, I think we'd have won it comfortably. And second half they came out and did well, but first half I think we were okay. It wasn't the best performance I've seen of our team, but for a team that had a few changes, a couple of interruptions for injuries, I thought we did okay. It was just they came out second half, I think, a lot more fired up than we did.
And Alex, into the second half, Sporting seemed to turn up the gas a little bit more and came at us a bit more.
Yeah.
We had taken Jesus off at half time for Trossard. And I think myself and Dan even said we didn't, well, I think it was your comment, Dan, that we didn't feel that Jesus would have probably come off then if he didn't have to make the substitutions that he had in the first half. He had to make two substitutions.
I think you're
bringing
right.
on. Yeah, bringing on Ben White and Holding. What did you make of how Sporting built into the game? And then we'll go into the goal itself.
Yeah, they certainly built on in the second half and became more dangerous, especially on the counter attacks with Marcus Edwards. He had a couple of big chances, and then of course they eventually scored from not really a chance, was it? It was just a crazy goal that don't really happen too often, scoring from the halfway line. But it's just frustrating. I think that's the thing that annoys me the most. Like, we should be able to win quite comfortably, and we know we can win if we play like we did against Palace, for example. So it's just frustrating to see like us playing in Europa, and it's kind of been like this for most of the season. I mean, we've done all right in Europa, but we haven't really played up to the standards that we know we can play. So I don't know if it's just the lack of focus, which is all on Premier League as we know right now, or what's going through the players' head, because they just don't seem to get the mentality right for the Europa League games. Because it's just so different. The Europa League and the Premier League games.
Trev, why do you think that is? Why do you think that Alex's observation there that we seem to drop in performance in the Europa League?
I nearly did it, but I'll remember. We have been prone to a below par performance in Europe for as long as I can remember, Fergus. You know, it just happens. This time, I honestly think that looking for reasons why, and you are clutching at straws when you look for reasons why we drop our standards so much. I'm going down the line of we're still a young team. We're still all learning the game, and I want to talk about this a bit later, if you don't mind, Fergus, when we open the debate up. And there's going to be certain teams we come up against that are going to play in a way that we're not quite ready to play against. You know, Everton in the first game at Everton played a sort of game of football that we just didn't quite know how to beat. Sporting Lisbon were very much like that in both the games. I thought in the first game in Sporting we started very brightly, but Sporting got the knack of us and came into the game as we saw. At Arsenal, who knows what it is, boys? Who knows what it is why we drop off a little bit in the Europa League? It's frustrating. It's really frustrating, because although I said Sporting are a good side, there's no doubt they're a good side. They've just beaten the Arsenal. They shouldn't really be beating on our day. If we put in a Palace performance against Lisbon don't live with us. Lisbon don't get any near us, you know. And so why that happens, who knows, boys? Who knows?
Dan, do you think maybe that attitude led to Jorginho and Granit Xhaka maybe overplaying it a little bit in the midfield, which led to Gonçalves getting that worldie? I think he was 6 yards from the halfway line when he put that ball over. Ramsdale's quite far up the pitch, which he always is in those situations as the team push up. And the ball, from where we saw it, just went and took a really quick dip, like it was going into Hong Kong International Airport or something like that. And in behind Ramsdale, nothing he could have done. But could that have come from this attitude and this overplaying?
No, I don't think so. Look, no one wants to give the ball away in midfield there in that area, but I think he could hit that sort of 9 out of 10 times and it go nowhere near that. I think it was just a great strike. He connected very well and it looped over the keeper. One thing we did say in the ground is just imagine if that was Turner, the criticism he would have got. I think he would have got an awful lot of criticism.
Disagree, my son. Not 9 times out of 10, let me tell you.
I'm just taking
999 times out of 1,000, mate. That goal go in.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's just everything went right for them in the timing of the strike and his technique, and just it was the perfect strike that they needed at that time. And we were unlucky. Second half, I think performance wasn't there, but even the criticism of our performance, second half of extra time and even parts of the first half of extra time, you know, we hit the post, we had big chances. We quite easily could have won that game on any other day, and then it goes down to a lottery of penalties. But I think if we're looking at reasons why, I think it's the message that it sends out. When you make a couple of changes to the team, It says to the team first, it's not our priority. The crowd know that, and you can see by the crowd that turns up for those sort of games, very, very different from the Premier League, and the atmosphere that they generate in the ground is very different. And even the response to when the players are trying to get the crowd going quite a few times, not the same as a league game. And I think the players feel that. I think the atmosphere of the stadium makes a big difference too.
Alex, over and over in the chat, mentions about Odegaard and Saka and Partey. And in particular, for me, Odegaard being missing from that midfield area. I didn't think Vieira in that game stepped up. Oh, Alexa, stop. Bloody thing. I didn't think Vieira lived up to Odegaard's sort of heights and reputation, and we really did miss him. And you did notice that when Arteta brought on the more bigger guns, he brought on Partey and Saka for Nelson and Vieira, and then later after the 1-1, like there was almost a moment just before that Edwards could have scored, and Ramsdale got hit in the face, and we thought he could have been out as well. And then we would have had Turner. Turner was warming up, and we're all really worried. But all those big guns came on into the extra time, and it does make a big difference when Odegaard's not playing.
Yeah, it does. Like, they are three of our most key players this season, Partey, Odegaard, and Saka. So, of course, it makes a difference. And as you said, like, Vieira didn't have the best of his games against Sporting. So, yeah, and you could see straight away Odegaard when he came on in extra time, how much of a difference it made. I know they were tired as well, Sporting players, which you could see, but he just really ups our level when he comes on the pitch, and he brought some energy, and he really tried to lift the crowd as well and the atmosphere. So yeah, he did everything he could, Odegaard, to try and win it for us.
And bringing on Odegaard, Trev, is that like kitchen sink? We were very much more dominant in the second half. I think it was shit or bust, as the phrase goes. But also, I think we did turn the screw quite hard on Sporting, because Sporting became very unsporting, especially in that second period of extra time. What's his name? Ugarte or Ugarte or whatever, I don't know. He got a second yellow, and to be honest, it could have been a straight red from the double tackle he went in two-footed on two Arsenal players. What did you make of their unsporting behaviour?
Well, you've got to look at the bigger picture a little bit, right, Fergus, in that he saved his stars on the bench, did Mikel, because he's obviously, as we all are, thinking, can we win the league? Can we win the league? So he's trying to give them as much rest as he can. When he's realising he's not going to, he's struggling, he brings them all on, right? And then, so Sporting Lisbon are going to look at that and think, how can we stay in this game? They've now brought on all their best players. How can we stay in this game and get it to penalties? Penalties is probably going to be our only chance of getting through now. How can we do it? Well, I know. We'll start kicking them off the park. And then they'll get worried, and then they might pull out of the odd tackle, and then we might survive till the end of the game and nick it on penalties, which is exactly what happened, Fergus, in my view. Exactly what happened in my view. They did probably what any English team would do, playing the second leg away in Europe somewhere. When it comes towards the end of the game, it's the battle of the hardest, not the battle of the fit. It's the battle of the hardest, and who's prepared to fight. And the Portuguese, I didn't enjoy watching it. I don't condone it, but it got them through, didn't it?
It did. We went to a penalty shootout, the very first penalty shootout in the Emirates Stadium in the history since 2006. So that's nearly 14 years that we've been there, and it's only the second ever penalty shootout that Arsenal have had at home. The last one being in 2003 in the Carling Cup against Rotherham, and Arsenal went through with Sylvain Wiltord scoring on that one. Unfortunately, on this occasion, our captain, Odegaard, a great penalty, as did Saka, who scored well. Then Inacho steps up for Sporting. Ramsdale gets his hand to that one, and he also gets his hand to Gomez's goals. But Dan, we chatted on Sunday briefly. You felt maybe he could have got a little bit more behind them. Did you think? I'm not. This isn't criticising, but I'm just being a bit picky.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think penalty shootouts are luck. An awful lot of it is luck, but also keepers can specialise in penalties, and there's a few keepers in the Premier League that are very, very good at saving pens. And I don't think that's one of Ramsdale's top assets. And I think it's probably one of the areas that he could potentially work on. I think he should have done better on a couple of them. I think there's one or two he probably should have saved. Yeah, it is what it is. I think no one wants to lose a game, but I think if you're going to go out on penalties, is probably not the worst way. As long as you bounce back from it, I feel like we did.
Trev, Martinelli steps up, takes a penalty. Unfortunately, he shoots, he misses, and then Santos blasts one past Ramsdale, and Ramsdale didn't stand a chance in that one. And we're out of the cup, 1-1 at full time, 5-3 on penalties. To be honest, I said to Dan at the time, I felt sick to my stomach. I just left, I was quiet, clapped the team off. It was late, and I felt quite flat the next day. But by Saturday, as we've all said, we're starting to get over it and getting back into the groove for Palace. What's your final words on that game, and Martinelli in particular missing the penalty?
As soon as Martinelli missed that penalty, I was gutted because he missed it. But more forefront in my mind was, what does a young lad who's missed such an important penalty do now? How does he react? What does he do the following week? So we're going to talk about the Palace game in a minute, and Martinelli was the superstar for me in the Palace game because he came back from a massive disappointment. The turning point of the game was obviously the Lisbon goal, and it was a great bit of skill, right? It was a great bit of foresight, but you do need a massive amount of luck to score, no matter how skillful you are. It went 2 inches, as Dan pointed out earlier in a way, it went 2 inches under the bar and it went 2 inches over Ramsdale. You know, that's just damn bloody unlucky, you know. There was a great effort from their man. I'm not taking it away, but it was unlucky. We just got knocked out to someone that had a bit of foresight and took a punt from a long distance.
Trev, is it a blessing in disguise? Is it a tournament too much with the squad that we've mentioned before that we've got?
Fergus, I'm selfish. You know I'm selfish, mate. You know how much I value a trip to Europe to watch my great football team play. So it's really hard. I struggle with it because I'm not the youngest man and I ain't got many more years of travelling abroad. But I'm not going to linger on that. It was very hard to take. But if you do look at it with some common sense and you look at who got injured in the Lisbon game, then you're thinking maybe it's good that we're only in one competition now because we've lost Tomiyasu. We're not sure about Saliba, although unlike a lot of other people, I think that Holding maybe not as good as Saliba, but he's a more than most teams in the Premier League would like to be able to call on a Holding when needed. So I'm hoping Holding's going to do all right. Interestingly enough, we lost our right back for the rest of the season, or one of our right backs, Tomiyasu, for the rest of the season. And just to close it off, when we played Palace, Arteta took White off and brought Jorginho on.
He's jumping miles ahead, isn't he, Dan? He's jumping miles ahead. You clearly haven't read anything we've written down today.
I have. No, I'm comparing it. You want me to finish off on the Palace game?
Yeah. On the Porto game. Yeah.
I mean the Sporting Lisbon game. And it's important that if you lose a right back and you've only got one proper right back for the rest of the season, then you look at what the manager does to try and think about what he would do if he lost his second right back. And he's done that against Palace. He's experimented a bit, I think, and I'll leave it at that because I didn't think we could talk that long about the Sporting Lisbon game, but we
somebody stuck on 5 minutes of like jumping around and messing about to make it worse. Listen, I'm off to Budapest regardless. I'm just hoping that we don't have any Manchester United fans from Surrey celebrating in Budapest Central Square or whatever. Sunday was Mother's Day. It was also my son's birthday. I met with Dan and my son Mike for a few beers. We went to the Shea. That was quite good. And then we made our way into the North Bank. Red Action had a lovely big London's red flag gone across there. And the Ashburton Army had their march from the Sobel Centre. And I've seen some footage of it, and it's really, really good. I haven't got any that I'm going to play here today, but it was really, really good. Vieira had been sacked. And Alice, with a little bit of this. So Vieira being sacked. The Arsenal fans did sing out a few times, Dan, didn't they? They sang out the Vieira song just to wind up Palace fans that little bit more.
The only song that should ever be sung to that tune with the name Vieira in it. But yeah, it's good to hear and good to support your ex-players. And to be fair, I don't want to touch too much on Palace themselves, but I'm very surprised he got sacked. I know it's not been sort of the best form for them, and they've not been scoring enough goals lately, but I feel like Vieira's a coach that will do very well in the future. So hopefully he bounces back and he gets a new job very quickly.
I think that the Homestale Front, or whatever they're called, the equivalent of the Ashburton Army, they brought a lot of pyros into and stuff into the stadium, created an awful lot of smoke and everything else. It's a little bit annoying that we get patted down all the time going into these games, or we get threatened that we're going to be kicked out. I know some people who let flares off on the Hornsey Road, and they've had stadium bans, this, that, and the other. Yet again, they let these away fans in with these pyros. I know the Copenhagen Ultras. I sent some pictures to you, Alex, of the Copenhagen Ultras. I didn't know if you were the guy in the third mask or the fourth mask, but what is the law over there with that sort of stuff?
Well, the same. You can't bring it in, but people find a way to do it anyways, and then they wear masks, so it's difficult to identify the people doing it. So that's the trouble with it.
Okay. Looking at the lineup for this game, there was several changes. Again, Jesus was on the bench for Trossard. Trev, if you were given the choice to pick your starting 11, and looking at this starting 11 of Ramsdale, White, Holding, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli and Trossard, maybe you'd put Saliba in instead of Holding, who did have a fantastic game. But Trossard or Jesus, who's the best in your starting 11 for you? Trev, you're on mute.
You're on mute. Gary asked that question, mate, and I have to say that just taking it in the moment, not allowing for injuries to people like Jesus and the coming back and the fitness, just at the moment, I think that Trossard works better with Martinelli than Jesus does on what I've seen. I think the interchange between Trossard and Martinelli, switching left to centre, centre to left, has been a massive part of our winning the last 6 games. I'm really impressed with the pair of them, the way they've formed a very quick understanding of each other, mate.
Dan, we talked about this. Who would your choice be? Would you have Trossard starting, or would you have Jesus starting? You think Jesus will play in a different position, don't you?
I think if they're both fully fit, I still think Jesus over Trossard. But yeah, I've said long term, I still think Jesus will be a player that moves across the line and plays multiple positions, because I think long term we will get another centre forward. But look, it's good to have options, so certainly can't complain. And Trossard has done a fantastic job, especially in times when obviously Eddie's injured as well. So not only are our 2 strikers out, we've had to sort of try and play around and find a new solution, but Trossard's come in, just done a fantastic job on and off the ball.
Alex, 27 minutes in, there's an early-ish chance for Zaha, and if they scored, it could have been a very different goal. It hit the post and went out for a corner off the back of Ramsdale. Now, the debate was, did Ramsdale get a hand to that enough to say it was a save or not?
I don't really know what the debate is about, because I just saw it was a good save from Ramsdale, and then of course he had a bit of luck as it came off the post and hit his, I think it was one of his feet, right or left foot. I'm not sure what the debate is about. I thought it was a pretty good save. It was a difficult shot from Zaha at the near post. And yeah, he did what he could to push it onto I think he got a slight touch to it, in my opinion. And yeah,
Trev,
and then
Trev, your opinion on that? Did he get a hand to it?
Ramsdale got a hand to it. Millions of people saw it. I was watching on the telly. Ramsdale got a hand to it. It hit the post. That's a save. That's a save. There's no other question about it. Goalkeeper touches the ball, it hits the post, it's a save.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And then it comes back off the post, and if it had gone in the net off the back of him, I would have been thinking, oh, how unlucky is Ramsdale? But on the day, the luck was his way, wasn't it? And Ramsdale knew it. You wouldn't have seen it, boys, watching live in the ground. But if you were watching it, Alex, you might have seen it. Ramsdale knew he got lucky with that when it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
he took a huge intake of breath, big deep breath, and thought, "Yeah, I've got away with that rebound off that post." But it's a save. It's a save, and there was a better save to come. Which was really important at that time of the game.
It was indeed. Dan, you mentioned as well that the way that the forward line of and midfield of Palace really struggled to deal with Partey and Zinchenko. Go on, expand a little bit more on that and give opportunities for Martinelli.
Yeah, I feel like Palace sort of played into our hands a little bit, to be honest with you. I think they tried to put Schlupp and press him up onto Partey and stop him playing out, but teams are really struggling with Zinchenko coming inside because Elise out on the right hand side, he doesn't know whether does he push up onto Zinchenko and follow him inside and leave space for Martinelli, one-on-one on the wing, or does he stay out there, double up, but then completely give up any chance of winning possession back when we're playing the ball around in our own half? So it gives them a sort of good conundrum as how they're going to try and press us, really. We've always been a team, I felt like, when they've pressed us in years gone by, that we struggle to be pressed, and we're good and pretty on the ball when we're not pressed, but when we are, we struggle. Whereas this sort of side, they seem to now be able to play through a lot of pressure. And then teams tend to come at us sort of first 10, 15 minutes and try and press, but then realise they can't, and then they drop off. So I think it's a good problem to have. But also, I think the way their team selection was strange for me. I know they started with Edouard, but I think I would have gone with someone a bit more pace, able to run in behind and cause our defence a bit more trouble, because I think someone like Edouard just suited Rob Holding. That's everything that Holding's about, is battling a player one-on-one, and they basically said, here you are, go and have a battle with Holding, and there's going to be only one winner in that instance.
Yeah, no, Holding, as we said, had an outstanding game. Trevor came up to about the half-hour mark, and Arsenal scored, and it came from Ben White out wide. He put a ball into Saka, who lofted the ball over to Martinelli, and it was a great 1-0 from a tight angle from Martinelli. But he just looked like, no matter what, once that ball was coming to him, he was scoring.
Cracking tackle from Ben White, who develops into a better right back every game. And then when that ball falls to Martinelli, I'm just on my knees in the living room watching it on the telly, thinking, this needs to go in. This needs to go in. This immediately banishes the Sporting Lisbon penalty miss. Immediately, she's gone out of his head, and he smashes it in. Great finish. And I was absolutely over the moon, not because we were winning 1-0, not because I thought we were a much better side, but mainly because Martinelli scored a goal, and that is exactly what we needed for the rest of this season. He'll be all right now. It's gone.
Alex, it was a good hangover cure for him from missing the penalty, and considering he played all of the 120 minutes as well against Sporting, as many of the players did, they didn't have that huge amount of rest, and they all came back and looked really, really strong.
Yeah, like I must admit, I had my worries going into the game on the back of a loss and 120 minutes of play and multiple injuries as well. So, but they just wiped away all worries in that first half because we played amazing. And Dan made a point last time on the podcast on how Arteta likes to isolate our wingers and how important it is for our wingers to be able to go with both left foot and right foot both ways. And Martinelli just does it again. He's amazing with both feet. That's his 5th goal with his left foot now. And it just shows the ability of both our wingers. We've seen it many times with Saka as well, how they're just so good at going either way. And yeah, I don't know if you've seen the video of Ramsdale when Martinelli scored. it was like he had the controller. He was controlling him.
Yep.
He was imitating what he was doing. That was just perfect. But yeah, I just thought when he got the ball in that area, I knew he was going to score. And like Trev said, it was just amazing to see him bounce back from that missed penalty. And I'm sure, as Trev said, also it's out of his head now, and he's moved on.
Dan, 13 unlucky for some, not for Martinelli.
No, not at all. And we should really be excited about this boy because I said there was a stat that I saw where it's 13 goals for him, and it's the most goals scored by someone aged 21 or under since Nikola Anelka. And how exciting was Anelka when he was a young kid and all the potential that he had before he became a snake. But the lad Martinelli, we should honestly be so excited about him because he can really go on to be a world-class player. And we've got another one on the opposite wing. I think only was it one goal behind him. I think is it 12 he's on to now.
Yes,
so,
okay.
Yeah, amazing.
Partey headed over from a corner. Trossard and Odegaard both came close. It looked like Palace were going to go in 1-0. But White played a beautiful 1-2 with Saka, who curled it over in the far corner. Training ground for Arteta, pass, move and run along the line. Trev?
Yeah, we see it all the time. They must practice though. Well, they practice all the moves on the training ground. Of that, I'm sure. But the finish from Saka, was a massive indicator of how he's improved this season. It's all about a confidence, He's got the confidence now to curl that ball in that far post. Comes with maturity, comes with game time, comes with more games in the Premier League. A wonderful finish. As we're going to talk about them, I know, right? But how many times have you seen a game where a team scores 4 goals and you can actually say that each one of those goals was a thing of beauty? There was no luck involved in any of those goals. No luck. Those goals weren't given to us by Palace. It wasn't a mistake from a set piece or a mistake by the goalkeeper. There were 4 brilliantly worked goals in a game of football. And that's something we should all look at as Arsenal fans and think, wow, we won that game. Palace gave us nothing. We took it from them.
Trev, they talk about Wenger ball. Arteta ball has been born, and we're witnessing it on the pitch, home and away, in Europe and up and down the country. And that Palace and the Fulham performances in particular are shown as we're coming towards the end of the season that, Christ, a little sprinkling of magic dust next season, Champions League football. How far can this team go?
Mate, listen, right? You did say me, didn't you, mate? I don't want to butt
in. Yeah.
Right. It's so exciting. For me, the difference between Wenger ball and Arteta ball is that probably Arteta ball, you take the shot at goal about 3 passes earlier, Wenger ball was all about getting it in the 6-yard box and then putting it away. We all remember the brilliant Wilshere goal against Norwich at the Emirates,
Oh, yeah.
Whereas Arteta, I think he plays the Arteta ball, but once you get in and around the 18-yard box, then you can shoot. Odegaard does it regularly from about 16 yards. He finds that bit of space. He had a shot saved from there. Smith Rowe was doing it last season before he was dropped. Before he was injured. How did I say that? So, yeah, there is a comparison, but Arteta ball, the scoring chance he's taken a bit higher up the field, probably 10 yards further from goal if it's available. Whereas with Wenger, he didn't like you shooting until we got in the 6-yard box. But look at this. How good is it to talk about things like this?
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And Dan, you had a question that you put in the chat to us. I don't know if you're aiming it at me to bring it up, or it was a question you want to ask of us about Giata, whatever his name is.
Yeah, mainly for Trev, because I know he won't like the question. But
right, we'll all sit back, get our popcorn.
I know you said no element of luck in any of the goals, and it was a great goal. But I just feel like looking at the way the keeper was, Whitworth, the young academy lad for Palace, I feel like he was still thrown in at the deep end. And I think most keepers you see come to the Emirates, they have absolute worldies, and it happens day in, day out every time someone comes to us. And I just feel like if Palace had their first keeper, I think they would have saved that.
Yeah, but Dan, they didn't. They didn't.
That's a very good answer, but yeah.
They played the keeper they had to play, and we played the game we had to play. I don't care who the other keeper could have been. We played against the keeper on the day, and in fairness to the young lad, he couldn't have saved any of them, I don't think.
And Dan, probably Alex, putting that question to you as well. Bearing in mind that Guieta was at the start of last season, the start of this season, he had a run of games that he was an outstanding keeper for Palace. I think it was last season. So it's not like he's an inexperienced just being plucked out of the academy.
I mean, you could make the argument he didn't do too well on the Saka goal, but I think on the other goals he couldn't do too much. But I agree with Dan, like he was thrown in the deep end a bit because he has only played for the academy, and then he had one game prior to this where he actually did play quite well. But yeah, of course, it's not the optimal thing having your academy goalkeeper go against the top of the league. But yeah, I think we would have won regardless of who they would have had in goal for that game.
I must be confusing with another keeper. I thought he had more games than just 2 games. So I didn't think he was bad. I didn't think he was awful. Yeah, maybe as you said, the second goal. Went to half time. 3-0 came, which was by Xhaka, was a close range finish, a through ball by Trossard. Registered hits his 6th assist for Arsenal so far. Dan, I'll talk to you on it. What's your thoughts on Xhaka's? Oh no, that's the next one. Xhaka's goal.
It just shows the movement in the team because we were talking earlier about Trossard and how his movement links with Martinelli, but it's not just Martinelli that his movement links with. And it was strange seeing the ball fed into the man highest on the line, and that man was Granit Xhaka. And it was Granit Xhaka that played a 1-2 into Trossard and then back to Xhaka again. And it just shows how much they can completely move around. And I think there was a comment from, who's the person? I can't remember the pundit now, but they mentioned about Zinchenko in the Everton game appearing on the right wing and playing a through ball into the striker from the right wing position. And that's your left back. This team just moves around and must be an absolute nightmare for anyone to come and play against.
And to be honest, the addition of Zinchenko in this squad, because he does move around in that inverted midfield area, allows Xhaka to push up more forward. And Xhaka has played more the role he plays for the Swiss team. And we've seen him in the box more often than not in the last 5 or 6 games. And even a few games before that, before the World Cup, he was starting to get up there. It really has brought his game to us.
That's a striker's run that he made. That's not a midfielder that's pushed up. That is a striker's run to come off the line and go back again. So fair play to him.
And was he unlucky not to get one against? Was it Fulham or was it?
Yeah, it was Fulham where. Yeah, he should have scored as well.
You know what? It's interesting you make that point, Fergus. Dan, I'm going off of agreeing with Dan, but I'm going to agree with him on this occasion. But it's interesting you make that point, Fergus. And we said on this podcast, all of us, I think, earlier in the season, that Zinchenko, Partey are allowing Xhaka to get more forward, more like he does when he plays for the international team. And he was getting forward a lot and he was missing chances. I don't think he quite knew what to do because he never played that game at club level, getting forward that often. But that's changing now. He scored 2 goals in 2 games. And that goal against Palace was a very special goal because, as you say, he laid the ball off, moved into the space, and he put it away well under extreme pressure. The tackle was on him, and he managed to jab the ball away. And that is where Xhaka has been an important cog in this team this year. Not just scoring the goals, but getting forward and making an extra man, which in turn draws defenders and makes the extra space for Odegaard or Saka or Martinelli or whoever to get a shot off, because you've got an extra forward in there. The defenders have got an extra man to watch. It speaks for itself. And the reason that we scored all them goals was nothing to do with that poor young goalkeeper at Palace. We shouldn't talk about him like that anymore. It was to do with the fact that he came up against a damn fine football team called the Arsenal, and they were better than them on the day. But Xhaka, we heard it say a lot, don't we? It's like a player comes back, and it's like a new signing. Well, the biggest thing about that this year is that Xhaka has been like that. We've not seen Xhaka anywhere near the levels he's playing this season. Nowhere near.
And also, like Trev, like with Xhaka as well, he's just so consistent, and he's an athletic freak as well. He just plays. He played 120 minutes against Sporting, and then he played the full 90 minutes, and you wouldn't think he would have played against Sporting, and he never gets injured or anything. He's just so consistent.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. Listen, a player who's had an outstanding latter end of the season, if not all of the season so far, is Ben White. I noticed him. I said it after the Villa game. I watched him a lot close up, and I thought he's outstanding. He just gets better and better. Ben White got tackled, I don't know who, by a Palace player, and they dispossessed him. And Granit Xhaka came in and got the ball back, and was about to lose the ball. And Ben White just ran back, and he was so annoyed that he'd lost the ball in such an area, and he kicked the ball clear for a corner. Fantastic. Who will I go on this one? Alex, I'll go to you. Fantastic that he went back and done that, showed the tenacity and the responsibility he took for losing the ball sloppily. But was he right to kick it out for a corner in that way, or did he just lose his head a little bit for a second?
I think he lost his head a little bit because, as we all know, the corner led to the goal they scored. So looking back at it, I would have rather had he cleared it for a throw-in. But I think he just wanted to show some passion and lift the crowd as well, because he didn't need to like go that crazy on the clearance. He could have just cleared it for a throw-in or whatever. But yeah, I think it was just to show some passion, and he's usually like quite relaxed with his attitude. So maybe it was just for him to like show he's got some attitude as well, and some passion in him as well, and fire.
Trev, it did lead us to the set piece, and we conceded from another corner, and we'll talk about the possible VAR handball thing as well. But it's just the, you can't criticise the guy because he's been brilliant, but it was flipping stupid.
I'm giving White the assist, me. He can have an assist from me. Look, right. Ben White is, we've praised him of all we can, I think. But he's got that attitude, and he's got that don't give a damn attitude. He'll get in players' faces. And when he did launch that ball out for a corner, I thought, what are you doing, mate? But Xhaka immediately hugged him, didn't he? Xhaka hugged him and said, well done, well played, mate. So maybe they've seen something that we didn't, because I thought, why don't you launch it for a throw into row Z or something? But no, it was, and on reflection, it was the wrong thing to do because they scored. But I ain't going to call him out for it, Ferg. Can't do it, mate.
No. Dan, your thoughts on conceding again from a set piece from another corner? I think that's the third goal in our succession that we've conceded from a corner. It went to VAR, and there was talk about the handball. So conceding from a corner and the handball is yours.
Yeah, I mean, just before that, I think the reason why he did that, Ben White, was actually because he was out of position, and Zaha was one-on-one with Xhaka, and I think he's seen that Xhaka's probably not the most mobile one-on-one with a player like Zaha. I think that's why he rushed back. And I think he tried to kick the ball onto Zaha to go out for a goal kick, but I think he just didn't hit the player.
Okay.
But yeah, never mind. Move on. But yeah, I think it's disappointing to have another set-piece goal conceded, because it'd be nice to have firstly a clean sheet at home. I think that's where we're struggling a bit, is we need a few more clean sheets at home. But also with some of the teams that we've got coming up, we either seem to have teams right at the top of the league, tough away games, or teams at the bottom that's battling. And the teams at the bottom of the league that are battling, they will tend to nick a goal from set pieces or corners. And that's what we need to be careful of, because there's teams we're going to play against that we are a million times better than. But if we give them a little snip of a chance from a corner or a set piece and they score, they will then have something to hang on to. So I think something big to work on for the team.
Zaha came close again. He put a shot past Ramsdale, and it went down and hit just missed the post. But it was Ramsdale's face, I think, that stopped it. Was it? It was that. Okay, no, that was in the Porto game. But if Zaha had got so many football games, all one after the other, they all just become into a blur at some points. But that could have changed the game completely. But down the other end, Kieran Tierney had come on, and Kieran Tierney put in a great assist to Saka to get the fourth, and it was 4-1. Alex, thoughts on Kieran Tierney? How is he going to get more game time? What do you think of the performance in his cameo on Sunday?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good little cameo, and he offers something very different to Zinchenko. He offers the pace on the left flank and support on the left flank. And yeah, he was just bombing up and down the left flank when he came on, and he did what he does the best: whipped the cross in for Saka, who finished really nicely. And I really hope we can keep him at the club, but we'll have to see how happy he will be with the game time he'll be able to get, because we know how important Zinchenko is to our team at the moment, and probably will be next season as well. So we'll see what Arteta will be able to offer him in regards to game time next season. But I really hope we can keep him at the club, because I really like the player, and he's got a brilliant attitude, and he always just gives his everything when he comes on for the Arsenal. Oh, you've done it, Trev. You've muted yourself.
It was because my phone went.
I'm joking on my false truth. Hang on.
Good. That's a bit of voodoo done on you there, Dan. What do you do with Tierney? He played well. He's not going to get in ahead of Zinchenko.
So many people saying sell him and move on. Why would you sell what is probably the best backup in the league? And we've seen with how we are with injuries and what can happen in the team. Touch wood, hope it doesn't. But if we get injured and we need someone to step in, he's your man. So don't be reducing our squad depth when we need to increase it rather than reduce it. I think it's
Trev, do you think anything differently? Newcastle looking at it heavily in the summer. They need a left back as well. Unless we can get a huge amount of money, would that huge amount of money be enough to replace somebody who was going to be okay to be a backup? Because I think he's too good to be a backup.
Firstly, I can't believe you cut young Dan off like that. That was so rude, Fergus. He was mid-sentence and you cut in on him. Not the first time you've done it. You need to sort yourself out, mate. It's very rude. As for Kieran Tierney, when he came, he's not had much game time this year, and he could go either way. He could have chucked his toys out of his pram and said, "Well, I'm not going to make much of an effort." But completely the opposite. Before he put that ball for Saka, he made a defending tackle, where he sprinted back and made a superb defending tackle. And you're thinking, God, this boy wants to play for the Arsenal Football Club. And then I just disagree slightly with our Alex in that wasn't a cross for Saka's goal, mate. That was a pinpoint pass, mate. That was. It was. He looked up, he saw Saka.
Probably pass, not a cross.
Sweep it into the net. I want to see us keep Kieran Tierney, but he's so good. He's an international of some repute, and if we keep him, we'll be lucky. If he goes somewhere else and gets first-team football, then I can't really blame him for that, because he's got to think of himself. I don't want to lose him. He's fantastic. But I think if he does go, he won't be one of these players that goes from like a top club like us to a lower club, some middle league club like Tottenham or something, He'll go to another big club. Tierney, I'm sure, will go to another big club, and there'll be lots of them keeping tabs on him now. I hope we don't lose him. He's a class act. He puts a different perspective on the game to Zinchenko. I honestly think that part of signing Zinchenko was possibly because Tierney's had such bad injury troubles that Arteta thought he needed quality, and the signings turned out to take his place. Don't want to lose him. Won't blame him if he goes. Love the man. Great player.
Now, a point that Trevor tried to make earlier, Dan, was to do with Tomiyasu and Ben White. And Tomiyasu being out at the end of the season because you need cover in different areas. For the last 10 minutes of the Palace game, Thomas Partey came on and he was played right back. And you asked in the chat before, is that our option for if Tommy's out for the rest of the season? Do you want to expand on that, and then the other guys can respond?
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally think it's the next option, because at the same time, Zinchenko had been taken off, and I think you're probably more likely to see Zinchenko and Tierney play either side, or potentially maybe another centre half go out there, or even one of the wide guys play there. But it certainly shows the reason why I don't think we should sell a player like Kieran Tierney, because if you get 1 or 2 injuries, it can really reduce the squad depth. And seeing Partey play out there, I hope that's never going to be an option, because he's so key in the middle of the field. So hopefully that's just an experiment to see, sort of worst case scenario, if we had to, could we do it?
It might be just to give him minutes more than anything else, because he hadn't been playing a huge amount over the last few weeks. He
played right back for Atletico as well, so he's done it before.
Okay.
Didn't know that.
So it could be an option if we are unlucky with injuries.
Okay, well, the stats on the end of that game was 61% of possession to us. We had 15 shots on goal, 5 of which were on target. Palace didn't do too badly. They had 9 shots, 5 of which on target as well. So, they didn't just roll over, and Palace's big problem this season has been scoring goals. And Zaha, before, when we were linked with him, his finishing has always been the question with Zaha. He gets into the right positions, makes all the right moves and positions. It finished 4-1 at the Emirates. Great to see that on the screen. Trevor, our run-in. It looks like we're going to be doing this because there's 10 cup finals to go. We have a weekend off this weekend. I think Dan's liver could do with it, because he said he was suffering even still from the Lisbon. But we have Leeds, Liverpool, West Ham, Southampton, Man City. Thoughts?
We can bring in. I started an earlier question from James, and I'm looking for an opportunity to put it in. And that's a great opportunity, James. James has said, if we lose to Man City, Newcastle, Liverpool, can we still win the league? James, let me tell you for nothing, mate. We will not lose all of those 3 games. We are too good. And the reason I say that is because not just because I'm very confident we won't lose all them 3 games. We won't get 9 points out of them 3 games, but we won't lose them all. And the reason I'm so confident, James, is that we've shown on more than 2 occasions this season that if we lose a game, we don't drop away the next game. We come back better, we come back stronger, and we come back better organised. And if we lose one of them 3 games, we'll come back better. We will not lose all them 3 games, James. Be interested to get these boys' view on that question as well, Ferg.
Alex, you go first, because I know you're stuck for time, and there's one other question I want to get in after that as well.
Yeah, I agree with Trev. I don't think we're going to lose all 3 of those games. But of course, it's going to depend on Manchester City's results as well, because they are the team we are battling for the title with. So it's all going to depend on how we're going to do in the next games, and then of course how City are going to do. Because if they lose their games, they're not going to win the league as well. So yeah.
Dan, looking at their games, they've got Liverpool, Southampton, Brighton. They've obviously got us as well, and they've got Leeds and Fulham, Everton, Chelsea, Brentford, West Ham, and Leicester. They've had the Leicester game, they won't win all of those games. I can't see them. We could even get a point up there. I'm hoping for that, but they've got to drop some points along the way there, don't you think?
I don't know if they will drop that many points, to be honest with you. Look, let's not underestimate that they're a very, very good side. They've got tough games coming up with multiple competitions, but they are the current champions, and it's for us to knock them off their perch. So I expect them to push us all the way, but I also expect us to be able to stand up to it. And I think the question of will we lose all 3 of those? No, I don't think we will. I think ultimately what can happen at times is if you lose a game, you can have a knock-on effect to games further down the line. But we've shown a bit more resilience this year as a team to be able to bounce back and be able to say, okay, move on, let's go to the next game. And Palace showed that from Sporting, and we showed that from a tough run coming out of the likes of City, Brentford, Everton, that sort of run. So I feel like we're well equipped. I think the biggest danger for us is injuries as opposed to sort of running out of form as such.
And the future is bright. I know a former player of ours is retired today. Ozil is retired. And to be honest, that's about as much I'm going to talk about him. He had a good 6 months or so for us, if anybody else wants to add to it. But here is our future. You got Balogun, Martinelli and Saka. Scored the most goals in Europe as under 21 players. I saw you shaking your head, Dan. You can come in at last. Alex, thoughts on the future and the past?
Yeah, future is very bright. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen with Balogun in regards to after next summer, because he is tearing it up in the French league right now. So we're gonna have to see what Arteta's plans is for him. For me, he's very welcome at coming back and playing in our team next season. In regards to the past, he's made some not very pleasant comments about Arteta and the process after he left Ozil. So I think I don't like that about him, but we can't deny how good he was and how much hope and good football he brought to the team when he did play for the Arsenal. Him and Alexis, they were brilliant in that 15-16 season. But yeah, I really liked Ozil as a player, but I don't like how he acted after he left the club. That's my opinion on him.
Yeah.
Go on then.
2 points. Well, no, 2 points I want to come back on first, Ferg. That the City have pulled Haaland out of the Norway squad with an injury. Trust me, boys, it's a bit of craphousery. Haaland will be perfectly fit for their next game. Perfectly fit for their next game. And they're doing that because they're worried about the mighty Arsenal. As for Ozil was a player of extreme skill. There's no denying that, right? But his attitude in the last couple of seasons playing for the Arsenal stunk, and it stunk badly. I used to be travelling to away games up at Burnley or up at Huddersfield in the winter, and me and my mate Terry would say, Ozil will be injured today. And as soon as you get up there, he'd be out with illness or a bad back, And when he did play, he just wasn't the Messi Ozil we knew he could be. You can make I don't know where you can make a comparison, but that frustrates me more than a bad player. If I know a player's bad and he's not top level, I can watch him and think, yeah, he's doing his best. All I ask, and I keep harking on about it tonight. We've said it on this podcast before. Me and Ferg's mate, Mem, we say this all the time. All I ask is to see a player give 100% for the badge, right? That's all I ask. When I know a player can do better than he's doing, that is the lowest of the low. That's the worst of the worst, right? And in the last couple of seasons at Arsenal, Ozil did that. So for me, he's not a legend, right? He was a skillful player that didn't do it for our club. And he took us for a ride with his last contract. Now the Trevor time, Fergus. Since you want Trevor time, you're going to get it now, just before we go, right? I was going to name players here, right, at the end of this podcast. I was going to name some players, but then I thought, no, I can't do that. I can't name any specific players in the Arsenal side because that would be unfair to the others, right? But to coin a line from Mikel Arteta, right, this truly is just the start. We've got a young side with a young manager. This is the start of what's to come, and it's exciting. We're top of the league with a team that's still learning, with a manager that's still learning. This could go anywhere, this team. This team could see us win the Champions League in my lifetime, and I never, ever thought I'd see that. So the likes of Dan, Fergus, you go to games and you raise the level with your support. We've all got to do it. We've all got to do it because there's no doubt in a massive part of the improvement at Arsenal this season is the players. A massive part of the improvement at Arsenal this season is the manager. But the third part of the triangle, the third part of the conundrum is a massive part of the improvement of the Arsenal this season is the fans. It's undoubtedly the fans. The players have acknowledged it. The managers acknowledged it. And we've just got to keep going and doing it. Bring on Leeds, boys. I'll be there with you, the old boy. Not singing as loud as you do because it makes me cough and choke and swallow me false teeth. But I'll be there cheering them on. Right, I'm done, Ferg. I'm done. I'm going to lose my voice.
Cole, you could have told us that. You could have told us that a few hours ago. That would have saved us an awful lot of time. Alex, I know you got a dash, mate. Thanks very much as always for joining us.
That was brilliant.
We're planning on doing a phone in now. We'll confirm it yet, but it will go on Twitter or whatever. But a phone in next week where you guys who are in the chat and watching us get your chance to click on. You'll be able to go on to gunsandyellowribbons.com and click on join the show. Sorry, all right, join the show, and that will give you a link to sit here in the background, and we can bring you in. Just leave your phone on landscape with your earphones in, because then we can hear you. And turn a light on your face, unlike what Dan does, because we ask him not to on purpose. But it just helps that people can see you. So
join in, come and join us. Get your face on the screen, and
have your opinions.
Have your say, yeah.
If you want to phone up just to have a go at Fergus, honestly, you're more than welcome. Just have your lines ready.
Dan, I've been making little marks on my page, and 5 times tonight Fergus has said we played Porto last week, and they wonder why we struggle with him.
And they're not called Lisbon as well. People keep calling them Lisbon. That's a different team. They're called Sporting Club Portugal or something. And they've been really mad about it as well, because people keep calling them Sporting Lisbon.
Well, in this country, they've been called Sporting Lisbon for years.
They have.
Oh, that's Fergus for you, but he also called her.
Well, I didn't pick up Trevor on his mispronunciation of Martinelli earlier on either. You can watch it back when he was talking about it. So listen, let's get us all back in a nice, friendly mood.
It's happening. It is happening for Mikel Arteta.
I love to win. Yeah. And when I see the trophy, I want the trophy.
We're seeing something really brilliant from Arsenal, because even for them to be in the chat, for them to be in the talk, is mesmerising.
At the moment, I don't see anybody stopping Arsenal at the moment.
When was the Emirates last like this, week on week? Such noise! They are there and they mean to stay there. Bring on the big boys. All very tight for Arsenal, but absolutely brilliant! And touched in by Odegaard! Arsenal playing, and it's off for Gabriel! Saka, there is a chance, and Arsenal are level. Pote! Looking for Jesus! World Cup campaign. Arsenal starting their campaign. In the left round in a fine fashion. Saka, Cooper's with him. Saka scores! Cross. Oh, what a hit! Oh, he's gone right through it in! But Arsenal might be heading back to the top of the Premier League table. Martinelli, angling against him, and he made it one! 10 to it. Odegaard, it bobbles it! Odegaard, back again from distance, and he finds the bottom corner. Saka tries one. Oh! Arsenal's message to Manchester City: catch us if you can.
Oh, doesn't that give you goosebumps?
Deep breaths.
Dan, final word, because I didn't ask your opinion on Ozil. Go on, and then we will go.
No, that's all right. No, my only point there is I don't think he's a snake. And I think I agree with everything that Trev said towards the latter part of his career with us. But don't forget, at a time when everybody wanted to leave us, he came to join us. He was a big part of the team that ended our, 9-year trophy drought. And at that time, he was a fantastic player for us. He didn't try and leave. I'm not saying the money wasn't a big part to do with it, but he didn't try and leave or go on strike and that sort of thing. He was put to train elsewhere. He was the one that was told to leave and terminate his contract. And ultimately, I don't think a snake is quite the word that would describe him with us. He was a very, very, very good player, a world-class assist maker all over the world in World Cups, Champions Leagues, Spain, England, Germany, etc. And he's not like the other player that's retired this week that we don't
Trevor,
really know about.
Trevor, I think you've dropped your glasses. He's got your rose-tinted glasses on. On that note, you have been watching Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans.
Ferg, we can't end on that note. Some of what Dan said is right? But let's put ours to bed because we're all allowed our opinions, right? Let's just end on a high note, right? Because we can't talk about that as the last note of the programme. All we can finish with is we are the Arsenal. We're top of the league. We've got the greatest squad we've had in years. We've got the greatest young manager in the world. Not in the country. We've got the greatest young manager in the world. We've got the greatest young player in the world in Bukayo Saka. And we've got 10 other players that ain't far behind him. We are the Arsenal. We're going places. And we're going with a smile. Come on, you Gunners.
You've been listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons and Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too.